Today we're going to be talking about what is prompt engineering. As you can see on the screen here, this is a live demo having my notepad open, so I'll be looking off screen and writing, and then we will be doing in real time Google searches as well. So let's go through the history, or like what exactly is prompt engineering. So I think that there are a lot of ways to get started as to there's me, what I think about it. And then of course there are what Google actually tells you. So I think let's start off with asking Google what is prompt engineering, and then we're going to link that with AI. So I'm just going to type directly what is what is prompt engineering? Specifically, I used something that is using in UBC because as a person who teaches at UBC, we have a lot of teaching materials there as well. So the first one, actually, this is prompted by AI. So once upon a time, when we searched in Google, it would generate a whole series of like cards, for example, or it would also give us something like this, which is like, what does this mean? And then you can click to this. These are, as you can see, people who ask. This is, in a way, sort of like this old school way of thinking about what AI is or prompt engineering is, because you're asking a series of questions. So you can see that in Amazon, that their answer is that it's a process where you guide generative artificial intelligence, so Gen AI solutions, to generate desired outputs. So that is one method of answering about it. This is what we see currently is this is a Wikipedia answer, which is the process of structuring or crafting an instruction in order to produce the best possible outcome from Gen AI model. Then what is actually important to understand is that, like you are familiar with, doing Google searches will have a whole series of different outputs dependent on how you phrase something, what you're looking at. So meaning that, are you looking at this Wikipedia output? Are you looking at something like what people are asking, have things from UBC specifically? So as a person who teaches professionally and teaches full time, I tend to lean much heavier on what my colleagues are doing. So as an institution, we understand that these are sort of like the benchmarks that we're putting out to either help guide students or other professors how to approach a topic like AI and specifically prompt engineering. So we understand that like this is, as this has been talked about, or this has been listed as outputs, it's a series of instructions. So let's put this down here. So instructions. In order for you to go and create some sort of an output. So that makes a lot of sense in terms of, we generally have to go and tell something to someone to get something done, right? So either you're tasking yourself. So if I have to go and put this down in a visual method of writing about this, then I would say something like this. So we as people, we have to understand what the task is. And from there, we are either tasking ourselves or you're delegating to someone else. So this delegation can therefore be a subordinate, a team player, somebody else where you have to explain the task in order for you to have an outcome, right? So sort of it doesn't really matter whether you're tasking yourself with something that you have to complete or you're tasking somebody else in order for it to be completed. So based on the definition that these are a set of instructions in order for you to go and produce something is very similar, then therefore, based on what is the instruction of the task, you get an output. So you are probably quite familiar with doing something like this either way, because you're either used to telling yourself, okay, I need to go and complete this homework, or, oh, I need to go and write a lesson. And instead, I think what happens is that there's a lot of tacit knowledge that isn't really thought about as to how we proceed. Having those tacit knowledge is incredibly important when you're writing instructions. So that is effectively what is prompt engineering. And we're actually going to go into the different steps as to how do you get started in prompt engineering. But I would say that, if you're looking at this from a perspective of like somebody who's working, is that you've done this actually quite a few times. You are yourself, you have to understand your task. So your task will have a series of steps that you need to do. Whether you have formally listed the tasks in 1, 2, 3, or you're just saying, I need this entire thing to be done, which is I need to write the grocery list. And then you don't really necessarily think about, okay, I need to go and pick up a pen or pencil, or I need to open a notepad or something, or make a mental list. Like those are all different tacit knowledge that we will have operationalized in order for us to go and create this list. So you've then therefore created a list. And then now you're either telling yourself, which means that you have to go and remind yourself as to like what it is that you need to go and pick up at the shop, or you're delegating to somebody else, like you're texting someone else to go and say, here is the list of stuff that we need to buy in order for us to go and make dinner. And so therefore, whatever the output is, either you driving to the shop and picking stuff up, paying for it, etc., those are all considered to be outputs. Okay, so like in a day-to-day life, this is the context that we're working with and understanding that. Most of the time where there are significant gaps is the fact that maybe you don't necessarily write these steps out. And so, in a managerial position is that if you're quite used to delegating to your staff how to go and get something done, or you're onboarding someone like induction, orientation, etc., you'll recognize the fact that, oh, this is something that I've actually done quite often, because you're now delegating, like I have to tell you, like sign into this website. You now need to go and figure out what your user ID is, and then you need to go and set up your password. And then if this is a new password, then you have a combination of letters and characters that are maybe like 15 numerical characters that you have to go and work with, etc. So notice that like when you are working with somebody brand new, you are giving a whole series of very elaborate instructions in order for you to get an output, which is the output the other person understands what you're talking about and that they can execute this exercise or activity. It's literally the same thing, but instead of you talking to another person or you're talking to yourself, you're actually telling AI to go and do this. So that probably is what I would say prompt engineering. This is the quickest way to understand what is the position. Is it you tasking yourself, you tasking it to be something? And this is actually really important because these are the things that we have to like see in order for us to go and start writing these prompts, because in LLM or Gen AI, generative AI, which is what we're using for ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the other platforms, it is a generative artificial intelligence, meaning that it is generating a series of outcome solutions output, which means all the same things based on what it is that your input is. So it is, you have to actually drive the conversation in order for you to have some sort of a prompt to get to your desired output. So I hope that that like makes sense in terms of where we are thinking about how to get started in prompt engineering. So in the next section, we're going to talk about actually putting a prompt into AI, and we're going to see what that looks like. So let's get started in putting a prompt into ChatGPT. So this is a paid version of ChatGPT, and you will see that there are a lot of different options as to what you can choose from. I use ChatGPT or GPT-4o the most often, but you can also do tasks. You can do 4.5, so this is about research, and then O1, O3, O3 mini, high. So these are all more specific models as to like what it can do. For what it is that we're doing, I think 4o is going to be perfectly fine because it's going to give us something that is more generic and like what we're looking for. So you can see if this is the first time you're seeing what ChatGPT looks like, it will already have a series of prompts for you. So you can see at the bottom here that, you have this create your image or pick me, help me pick. So what would that look like? Help you write a text, make a recommendation. So I think this is really important for you guys to see that like ChatGPT is actually going to help you as to how to get started. So we understand that we need to go and do prompt engineering and that there's a very specific way that you might have different outcomes dependent on how you input your prompt. So I want to make it really clear that prompt engineering is not doing the same thing as a Google search. Like by all means, you can go and type into it the same way that you type into Google search, like what should I make for dinner? Okay, so let's see what that happens. What should I make for dinner? Okay, so now it's going to go and generate an output to go and see what you can have. So it does help you understanding, like they're going to ask a series of questions, which is helpful, right? And think about this is like, because this is this is trained in probability of how language is sequenced after in order for it to generate a sentence. It kind of needs to figure out what you like, the direction that you're going, because you've given such a broad instruction that it doesn't know where to go. So right off the bat, we can understand that this is something that, again, we're familiar with. If we're just saying like, hey, let's go for dinner. Well, what do you want to eat? Like, do you want Thai? Do you want Japanese? Or is there something like more specific because there are dietary restrictions? So we can see that I'm very shorthanded with my bot, or like my ChatGPT. So like generally if I wanted to go and answer something like this, I literally just would be like, 1, no. 2, 15 minutes. So you can see that like I'm quite curt with my responses to like AI. So 3, I have eggs. I'm just gonna think what I actually have in the fridge. Lemons, veg, like really nondescript here. Shrimp. What else? Let's just go with that for now. And then 4, myself. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay. It should produce a series of answers for you that may or may not work for you. Okay, so based on that, it now says that I can make this, which is I can make garlicky lemon shrimp stir fry with veg and soft boiled egg, which is actually like pretty decent. Okay, so the ingredients are these, which I have said that I do have: shrimp, mixed veg, like very broad here, garlic, which I don't have, olive oil, an egg, lemon, salt, and pepper. And then it goes into the instructions as to what that looks like, right? Okay, so this is effectively, you can say that this is some sort of a prompt. But what we're actually looking for here is something quite specific, especially if you're using this for a specific output. For example, if you're a student, you're trying to go and complete some sort of assignment, or you're a prof and you're needing something to go and help you with writing a lesson. So let's start all over again and let's think about what we want to do. So there are different methods that I know my colleagues have developed that's called either like ACT or actor. So it's actually, the name is quite apt, meaning that you are assigning a task as to what that role would look like, and then you will have specific characteristics, and then you'll know what your role is, and then you'll have, what the tone is, and etc. and etc. So like those are very specific things that you can put in. So if we follow a method like that, which is assign. So you can say something like, you are my research assistant. Full stop. So now it actually knows what the role is. And then C, which is, I've already forgotten what it is that I've said. But you can certainly go and say that, there are specific things, and I'm going to do this out of order, but like, you're my research assistant. You are a PhD. I need a series of research on marketing plans. So what is important for you to know here is that because I have said that you're a research assistant and that you're a PhD level, so the output there is going to be much more scholarly than say that I'm saying that you're a creative director or you're a CMO or something like that. And that's going to be more industry specific or aligned. So depending on what it is that you are looking for, the tone, the outcome, the level, all those things are going to change, again, like what the outcome is going to be based on the instructions that you're putting in. So you're my research assistant, you're a PhD level. I need a series of research on marketing plans. We are starting a research paper on marketing for Gen Z shoppers post-COVID. Okay, so let's see what happens. So you can see that it's now updating the memory. So from the previous task of us talking to it saying that I need you to help me make dinner. So now I've actually done something a lot more specific, telling it that you are this is who you are. This is the role that you're in. So you will then therefore say, great, let's build a comprehensive research foundation for your paper on marketing to Gen Z shoppers post-COVID. So this is something that I had written in my instructions. So here's a proposed series of research segments to guide your project. Let me know if you want to adjust the scope, focus on a specific region, or add a comparative cohort, meaning that it's millennials or boomers. So what you can see is that, and by no means is this perfect. I think that as a research assistant, it's really useful to go and provide something like this in order for me to actually just generate some ideas, right? Because I think sometimes it's like if you already know what it is that you want to write, so meaning that you are taking apart or you're taking parts of your PhD and you're writing it in order for it to submit it into a specific journal, that's really useful. So, I think it's really useful to go and think about what this prompt engineering can do for you and the tasks that you're trying to achieve, because that is actually effectively what prompt engineering is trying to go and help you with. So again, you can see that in this prompt is actually quite different to what it is that I would put into a Google search. In our previous example, when I say, what should I make for dinner? These are the ingredients. That might be much closer to what it is that a Google search can provide for you. However, this assigning it a role, a task, what it is, the outcome that you're looking for, and then you're going to endlessly refine this until it gets much closer to what it is that you're looking for. Because you now can say, and by no means like my research topic is not on marketing, it's on something very different. But if we wanted to go and do something like this, it could be, I could say, I want this paper to be submitted to Poetics, which is a journal. So because it's already understanding that one is your research assistant, two, this is about submitting an academic journal into Poetics, it's going to align to what Poetics is looking for. Then it's going to go and provide you with a series of outcomes because it's understanding, again, the topic here is about Gen Z shoppers post-COVID, and it needs to go and match with what the level of or the tone of the writing in Poetics. So you can see that Poetics is an excellent choice with its focus on empirical research around communication, culture, and meaning meaning making. That means that your paper should be theoretically rigorous, methodologically sound, and grounded in a sociocultural or communication framework with a strong preference for mixed methods or qualitative depth. So Poetics is a journal that does actually fit with my specific research, hence why I use that as an example. So you can see, again, you don't necessarily, none of this actually is going to be 100% what it is that you need, but what it can help you with is structure. So we understand that, like, for students, they have a hard time understanding structural flow as to how you actually put information together. So it can help, it can tell you in the introduction, you need to go and identify what your problem is, what is the relevance to Poetics, and then the research questions, and then the types of theoretical framework that you're using. Of course, you need to have your lit review, your method, and then different types of options, analysis and discussion, and then implications. So anyone who's quite familiar with going down this path of being an academic, these are structures that we're quite familiar with. So what we understand here is that ChatGPT is able to understand and provide a structure for you if you're going down the path of being an academic, and that you're needing this to be submitted to an academic journal. So you can see that the next question that it asks you, and it will continuously prompt you, is, would you like me to start compiling scholarly resources from Poetics, journals of consumer culture, and adjacent fields for your literature review? Like, it will ask you and it will prompt you, funnily, what it should be doing next. So you can say yes or you can say no. What I think probably could be helpful is to go and see, you can actually go and have like a bit of a U-turn and say, I want you to change, instead of submitting to Poetics, I want to submit to, I think it's called MIT, I can't remember what it's called, Sloan Journal of Innovation or something like that. Okay, so you can actually see that this is a different output. So now it's actually going to course correct and change into, okay, great. So see, it has a better memory than I do. That is going to go into the MIT Sloan Management Review, and that's going to go and change the focus from cultural theory to managerial relevance, innovation strategy, and actionable insights for business leaders. Very different types of publication. One is much more application-based, the MIT one, versus Poetics, which is much more academically driven. So you can again see that even with the same topic about Gen Zs and how Gen Zs are, I don't know, their shopping habits post-COVID, it'll help you start structuring some of these thoughts. And, you know, like if you already have data, if you don't really know how to go and start on data, if you don't have a literature review that's available offhand, like you haven't done any of these things, it can be a tool to help you get started. Again, by no means this is like a be-all end-all. Like this really is just a tool for you to get started. So again, we can now even change course again and say, actually, I want you to adapt this to social media. Okay. And it can be something very simple, right? So now we're saying that based on whatever this output is that is created, generated, the brainstorming session, it can actually help you adapt to go and fit into social media, because maybe you now need to go and have some sort of a marketing campaign for people to go and read this article for you, or article of yours that has been published. So you can see what it has suggested. So it even gives you the suggestion of doing either LinkedIn or Instagram, and then it's going to go and convert it into these short bite-sized insight-driven pieces that can be posted on LinkedIn, and it can also be posted on Instagram. So it like tells you how to go and start this, like the title of the post, the body, what this means for leaders, and then your call to action, and then it helps you provide an Instagram carousel. And so, you know, you can actually continue to go and do this, and you can tell it to actually generate every single one of these things, whether it's a LinkedIn post, whether it's your carousel. It'll help you actually go and create these things. So I hope that you found this to be helpful in terms of how you use prompt engineering. We went through talking about what exactly is prompt engineering and how that actually is now adopted into even when we do Google search, how actually prompt engineering is not the same thing as doing a Google search. And then we did 3 examples. So we did it in one, we assigned it as a role, as a research assistant that's a PhD level, and that you want to get started on writing an article to submit to a journal, an academic journal called Poetics. So it will help you, the output was to go and have a structure flow for you that makes sense with Poetics, this academic journal. Then we changed it into asking it to go and help you to take that information and write it into an MIT journal. So that's much more application-based for business leaders, and how that could be changed. And then you can also then therefore change and maybe use a very similar research that has already been conducted and that put into social media. So you can see that there's a really wide range of application that prompt engineering and using AI can be really, really useful for you. So again, I hope that has been helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.